Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I welcome back Lindsay Newton from the Duquesne women's lacrosse team. Last season, Lindsay played in 17 games, scored 9 goals, had 7 assists, had 23 turnovers, and 1 draw control. She also made the A10 honor roll this past season as well. And I'm super excited to have her back on the podcast again today. So, Lindsay, welcome back to the show, and how is everything going?
Thank you. Things have been going well. I'm still in school currently. So even with the summer, I am in a 2-year grad program, and that includes doing school over the summer. So it's been busy, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm excited to be here.
That's good. That's good. How has your summer been going for you so far? Is it weird? Is it weird having a summer where you're not preparing for a season?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely weird. I still am an athlete. I still have a love for sports. So I actually run with one of the girls that I met at Duquesne. So a couple days in the week, we wake up really early and go for a couple miles. I found time to work fitness into my life to be something that I enjoy rather than a requirement that has to be done. So it's been an interesting change, but definitely one that was needed. And I think my body thanks me for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you plan on like running a marathon or one of those triathlons? I feel like I keep seeing all my friends doing those lately, so I don't know if you planned on doing that at all.
Yeah, I really do want to. The first race that I have coming up is a 10 mile. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's in Pittsburgh. I would love to do the marathon. I believe the Pittsburgh Marathon is in May. So I have a long time to train for it if I decide to do that. So, yep.
Well, if you do decide to do it, obviously I wish you all the best. I know you're going to do great in that, so it will be a lot of fun. I would imagine to run one of those. That's on my bucket list, is to do a marathon at some point in the near future.
Yeah, same with me. It is on mine. I think it's one of the best things mentally and physically that I could be doing right now. So,
Yeah, I think cardio is my favorite type of exercise for some
mhm.
reason. I obviously like lifting weights every now and then, but I feel like it just clears your head a lot better when you're running versus lifting weights because you're so focused on trying to do it right.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Now, obviously, do you still plan on being involved with lacrosse in the foreseeable future, or is it sort of you're done with it for at least for now?
For right now, I'm taking a break. I don't really plan on coaching at the collegiate level. I would love to get my hands in some type of high school and or like team building type stuff, maybe clinical, like clinics would be great. With my sister playing and having 2 more years left and with her collegiate experience, I'm there to help her and do my best I can. But, I'm not playing this summer. I haven't picked up my stick, to be completely honest, since we ended our season. So I personally am taking a break, and I think that most athletes should do the same. If, you're coming off from graduating and just want
Hmm.
to relax. Yeah.
And at least you get to see your sister as from a different perspective as a fan, not as like a fellow D1 competitor as well. So that's gonna be nice to go to more games, I would imagine as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. And USC just joined the Big Ten, so she has a very competitive schedule ahead of her, aside from, they played in the Pac-12 recently. So definitely a big jump. And her travel schedule, I know, is going to be absolutely insane. But I hope that I can be one of the best supporters that she has out there.
Do you plan on seeing her play against Rutgers next year?
I hope so. They haven't sent out the location of like where they're going to play yet, but I'm hoping it's close. Flying to California is not necessarily the easiest.
Hmm.
Um, I would love to watch her play in the Big Ten. I think that, she's worked really, really hard and she has a really good support system. And one of my fellow teammates is going to be like one of her coaches. So it's going to be interesting and it would be really, really fun to see her play. I'm excited to watch her.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for the new conference realignment. I do
Mhm.
feel bad though for the travel perspective, especially with trying to
Yeah.
balance school and lacrosse. I feel like I don't know how I would do that, so I can only imagine what it's like for them. So, but hopefully they can figure it out and have like a schedule where it works for everyone.
I'm hoping so. I've heard that they're going to have some neutral locations. I don't know if that's going to be confirmed yet or not. Um, I do know that like with even the Pac-12, I think she only went to school like 3 times a week. So to
Hmm.
say anything about that, it's a very complicated situation. But I think she's really excited for the intense competition and having a better chance of making the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the other Big Ten teams like that they get to go out to warmer climate
Yeah.
for during the season because that's
Oh, I'm
sometimes.
sure. I'm sure.
Now let's talk about your season last year or this past season. Obviously, a lot of cool things happened with yourself, so that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you back on. My first
Mhm.
question for you is, as a fifth year player, what type of leadership did you want to bring to the team this year? Would you consider yourself a vocal leader or lead by example type of player? Because it's sort of a unique spot where you have a lot of experience, but you're also new to the team. So I'm curious, sort of, how you found your re leadership role this past season.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I didn't come into it thinking like I was a freshman or anything, completely unknowing of what was going to occur. I have a pretty good knowledge of my experience from Rutgers, and I brought that in with me with confidence. I didn't necessarily want to be a lead by example, but I also didn't want to tell everyone what to do, especially as a new transfer and with a lot of the team being brand new. It was an experience that gave everyone, I think, the opportunity to be a leader in their own way. Um, I think I really shined whenever IQ was on the table, just because of Duquesne is a health science school, so they don't necessarily get as much time on the field as per se I had at Rutgers. So I think my IQ might have been at its peak, like when I came in. Obviously, sharing all that information with the girls was a really good experience, and I love being a leader in any way that I can. I made really really good friends, and they're all super super sweet, and I'm so excited to watch them play this upcoming year because I'll still be in Pittsburgh, so I get to go to all their games.
Now, what would you say was like the biggest improvement you made to your game this past season? Obviously, statistically, it was the best season you had. So I'm curious, what were some things that you, I guess, worked on during the off season that helped you sort of take that next step forward once you stepped on the Duquesne campus?
Yeah, so I ended my Rutgers career with being more of an interior player and like playmaker in that sense. At Duquesne, I got more of an opportunity to take control of the ball for myself rather than being someone that was, helping other people make the plays. I kind of got to be that person with the ball and like go to cage. So I think that was the biggest change from, my experience in a Big Ten school versus A10. I think that everyone got an opportunity to play at all different areas on attack, whereas at Rutgers, it was very structured. And a lot of the times, like you had a position or you were asked to play in a specific area. Whereas Duquesne, I think there was definitely more freedom. And it was more, if you have the confidence to go play in that area, please go do it. Like just speak up and help everyone move around you.
Yeah, I feel like confidence is such a key part of any sport just because players that have confidence have that sort of energy to keep moving. And even when you're tired, you still want to keep moving. Where if you don't have
Exactly.
confidence, sometimes you might not take that shot that you would have taken when you do have confidence. How do you sort of work on that mentality part of your game, trying to keep your confidence moving in a
Mhm.
positive direction?
To be completely honest, a lot of the things that I do for confidence are, skills that I've learned in my graduate program, just because I want to be a counselor. So I speak to myself as if I were a client. So, for example, like mindfulness practices, like making sure that I'm getting a enough amount of sleep so that I can't, blame any of mistake that I might make on, things that I can control. So making sure that I'm aware on the control subject, making sure that I'm aware in a game, if it is something that is in my control, like how do I calm myself down? I learned at Rutgers how to properly breathe during those situations, and I still use those to this day. So I believe
Now,
it's called an anchor breath. I can't remember the exact term, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I feel like I gotta work on some of that stuff as well. So definitely gonna take that away from this interview. But getting back to your career a little bit. So I do want to talk to you about a few particular games from this past season. One of those being when you scored back-to-back hat tricks against Eastern Michigan and Youngstown State. What did scoring those mean to you? And just talk about some of those goals and how they sort of came about from your perspective.
Yeah, the first game, I can't remember if it was our very first game of the season. I want to say it was. It was the third quarter, and I think I was laying back on my heels a little bit, and I saw my parents in the stand, and I was like, if I'm not going to do anything, why did I take a fifth year? Like that was like my mindset that I was going into it. So those goals really, mattered a lot to me, especially scoring, coming off the field, like feeling that confidence boost from both my coaches and players alike. And I think in the game following, it was like something to prove that I wasn't just here because of, a name school that I came from or because I got into a graduate program. Like I'm here because I'm just like all of you guys and I'm good enough to play. So that was what it really meant to me. And I'm so grateful for those experiences because I think everyone, whether you're an attacker, defender, midfielder, goalie, like you all deserve to feel like a superstar.
Now, what was it like playing in the A10 and how did it sort of compare to the Big Ten from your perspective?
Oh, so different. I mean, I could name like 100 things off the top of my head, and in no way are any of these negatives toward either conference. The Big Ten has a much higher competition level, and I would say that many of those schools have a larger roster, and they're oftentimes going for girls who are coming from major club team programs. And I'm not saying that Duquesne or anyone in the A10 is not doing that because there are teams like UMass and Richmond who oftentimes grab those girls as well. But the conference is definitely more equal, a spread across the playing field, and it's definitely more gritty. Like playing in the Big Ten was gritty and it was competitive and it was tough. Playing in the A10, I experienced it was really, really fun. A lot happens during the game, more of a midfield game than on either side, I would say, in my experience at Duquesne at least. So it wasn't necessarily like a standstill. It was it was a lot of fun. I would say you have to compare them like chess and checkers, like similar but different.
Yeah, I did. Was there part of the A10 that you liked a lot? Like, I guess not liked more than the other, but sort of helped your game out a little bit. Like you mentioned how it's sort of a lot of the plays sort of developed from the midfield. Do you think that sort of
Mhm.
benefited yourself from your perspective as a former playmaker with Rutgers, where it helped you sort of get in opportunities to be more offensive and create grade A scoring chances?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the teams in the A10, at least from my experience, again, just speaking on that, a lot of the girls that play attack and defense are able to play in a lot of different positions. And I'm not saying at the Big Ten that that's not the case because it definitely is, but it's, I would say, structured in a different format. So on Duquesne, a lot of the attackers were able to play both behind and above the cage, just depending on how we flowed. We got a lot more motion and movement plays rather than just, a structured setup and this is how we're going to work off of it. And sometimes that was to our benefit and sometimes it wasn't. So I think that would be like the biggest difference and something that I personally enjoyed a lot more. It gave me an opportunity to be more versatile and to show off that, I might be really good on the inside, but I can also take a drive if I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, one of the best A10 wins your team got this past year was the victory over George Washington on the
Mhm.
road. Talk about just how good of a team win that was and how good the defense played in that game because you guys obviously held on in the fourth quarter to win that, to get that victory. And I feel like obviously I feel like a lot of people always focus on the offense and what types of goals were scored whenever we recap a lacrosse game. But sometimes the defense, I think, is a main reason why sometimes games are won. And I feel like that's a perfect example of one from your team from last season.
Yeah, George Washington was a great game. I actually had extended family in for that game, so it was really exciting to see everyone. It was it was a tough battle. I would say that our team came out with a lot of confidence, and the people that were on the field the majority of the time had a lot of chemistry. I think what really benefited us was just that we worked together without having to be told what to do all the time. And I think when we started to fall behind is when certain decisions were made in the sense that maybe subbing was occurring or that we were hitting a weak spot in tiredness or something. Because I think we started evening out the score. We were beating them by like 7 or 9. And then for whatever reason, it became tied. Um, our defense did really, really well. I think they started something new this season. I can't really speak on that because I personally don't know what they talk about when they're in the huddle, but um, they do run a zone and it's high pressured. And to do that for 60 plus minutes, like I have to give you so much props, especially against a team that's very, very fast, extremely aggressive. Like I think all of George Washington are top drivers. So huge props to them. It was an incredible experience. I mean, I wouldn't trade that moment for the world.
Now, what stadium did you like playing in the most last season? And I never asked you this last time I had you on, so I ask you now, what stadium did you like playing the most during your time with Rutgers?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know what? This is such a controversial game, but I would have to say Richmond. That was my favorite game to play in. I don't actually think I scored, and we weren't doing very well, but at one point we were beating them by a lot, and I genuinely thought that that was going to be like game all. However, Richmond is a really good team, and playing over 2 hours for them is like a breeze. So I think for us, we just needed to either, work harder or be in better shape or get out of our little mental funk. Um, there's a lot of factors that players are unable to control, and in games like that, sometimes they don't necessarily benefit you, but that was probably the most exhilarating endorphin filled game that I think I've played in a really long time. So I would say that is my favorite game of the year.
Now, I'm not sure what if you were aware of this, but your team is undefeated when you score a goal. What's your thoughts on that stat line, if you were aware of that at all?
I was not aware of that, but it's awesome to know. Um,
I just thought that was cool, so I thought I'd mention it
yeah,
to
no,
you.
that is actually really cool now that I'm thinking about that. I I I will say that I really hope that I was a good person to the team and that I was able to contribute in ways that, helped them win at the end of the day. And I do firmly believe that I did. I think that, again, like uncontrollable factors that I wasn't able to, partake in that just kind of
Hmm.
unfortunately led to some losses. But if anything, that's an awesome stat and that makes me feel good. But, you know,
Well, I'm glad I brought it up to you then. So
yeah.
hopefully, now you did play your final game of your college career with Duquesne in a loss against Davidson. What emotions were you going through knowing that was your final collegiate game? And I guess how have you reflected on that loss and the end of the season since then? Because obviously, I felt like you guys went off to a really solid start, and then obviously had some really tough games down the stretch that really hurt your team in regards to getting into the A10 playoffs.
Yeah, there again, a lot of uncontrollable factors from a player's perspective that we just weren't able to adjust. And unfortunately, that led to a downfall. um, However, that game was emotional for a lot of reasons. I don't have any more I don't really have any more years of eligibility. So that was like my last game completely of my collegiate career. And that was sad, but also a little bit relieving. I think it was a tough season. And I really have been so thankful to have met so many great girls, and not only ones that know a lot about lacrosse, but ones that really know what it's like to have good character and to be a good person. And individuals who don't necessarily have lacrosse on their radar 24/7. I think that was a big relief for me coming from a program that valued lacrosse over other things into a program that also valued lacrosse over other things. But at the end of the day, like there are other things that may be more important. So it was a really good feeling. It was really, really sad. It was a very heartbreaking experience, but um, again, I'm thankful for it all the way. So
Yeah, and what will you take away from your time with Duquesne overall?
overall, I would say never miss out on an opportunity to play another year if you get it, just because I would have never met the people or had the experiences that I did if I had not done so. And I think it just makes you a better person. I loved going to a school that was much smaller than what I had attended to before. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't have, loved a fifth year at Rutgers because, I could have done that, but I decided not to. From Duquesne in general, I think being committed to something takes a lot of effort, and to do it for an extended period of time, more than what is usually applicable is an incredible feat. And I think it gives you more confidence. So if I were to look back on my past self and give her advice, I'd say, don't stress about anything. Just it's going to be worth it. I promise you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a little bit more of a broader question, but sort of based on the
Mhm.
last one. Well, overall, what will you take away from your lacrosse career as a player with all the ups and
Yeah.
downs that you had when you look back on it now?
Um, Overall, I would say it makes you a better person. It ultimately gives you a lot of skills that you can use in life that are not only applicable on the field, but also off, such as time management, toughness, facing mental battles and challenges that you have to overcome. And also it gives you a sense of community and support. Whereas, individual sports, such as like, I don't know, swimming, track, sometimes like you have to be very confident in yourself. And I think lacrosse was just it was a shoulder of support that I needed in, the darkest of times. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it must be cool to see sort of those lessons that you learned in lacrosse
yeah,
sort of apply in after college or after playing life for you. I assume you sort of do you ever get sort of like, oh, that I learned that from lacrosse when you're just like on a day-to-day basis and
absolutely. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
absolutely. Anything that has to do with time management and, my ability to get work done like weeks to days before it's due, especially in grad school, is like completely dedicated to lacrosse. I did not learn that in high school. I did not teach that by myself. It was strictly just knowing from years that, oh my God, I'm gonna be away for games this weekend. Like I have to get stuff done Tuesday, even though it's due Saturday. So
Hmm.
anything like that, I completely am just like on top of the ball. Communication has definitely improved, I would say, with other people. Unless I'm busy, but with other people, I feel like I'm quick to respond. So there's a lot of, I could name so many of all of these skills that have just helped me in my real world. And I can see it in my sister too. And I think it's just such a great thing. Sports in general, just
Yeah.
such a, yeah.
So let's move on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you a little bit more off the field. Now, this one's a little bit different, Lindsay, than last time, where I've just found random questions on the internet that I thought were interesting, and I hope
Awesome.
that you can provide a good perspective on them, and I'll give you my answers on them as well, and it'll be kind of a fun little conversation. So,
Oh, fun.
first one is, what was the best concert you've ever been to?
Ooh. Like very weird response, but Katy Perry.
That's
I think
good.
I went to her like when I had to have been like 13, 12. It was like great performer.
Hmm.
I thought I was in Vegas. So I would say her.
That's a good one. She has that, I forgot which album was, but there's like four straight like bangers. It was like Fireworks, California Girls,
Yes. Yeah.
Teenage Dream. It's like that's like probably one of the best runs I've seen from an album in the past 10 years. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess for me probably I guess Paul McCartney was pretty cool
Oh,
seeing
fun.
him live. So especially since I get to say that I saw a Beatle live, which I
Yeah.
feel like not many people get to say that. So that was probably my favorite concert I've ever been to.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Now, what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Oh my, I was interviewing my sister. This is kind of a lame answer, but I asked like what quote like she wants to live by for like the rest of her life. And she said, one day or day one or one day you choose. And I was like, that's kind of awesome. Like if you have a mindset like that, I think just, I don't know, it's almost like you're pushing yourself to do anything. So that would be the coolest thing I've seen this week.
For me, it's kind of random. I just was like, since there's no sports this week, I've been trying to like find like random videos on the internet to sort of educate
Mhm.
myself on. And I saw this one about golden retrievers, and I thought that was pretty cool. They're very cute dogs, so I like them a lot.
Oh, I have three.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
What are their names?
I have one of them is named Wiley after a river in North Carolina. One of them's name is Tucker after nothing. And then my dog is a little English cream golden retriever, and her name is Scarlet after the Scarlet Knights.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting learning facts about them. So they seem like a great animal to have. So I'll probably get
Yes,
one at some
definitely.
point in my life.
Yes, you have to.
Now, who has the nicest jerseys in all of college lacrosse?
Oh my gosh. There's so many good ones that I can think of. To be honest, I think USC has really sick ones. I love their color scheme. I don't really know why. And they have shorts, which I was always very, very jealous of. Um, oh, I'm really trying to think. You know what? Honestly, I'll say UNC. You can't go wrong with Carolina Blue. I think everyone looks good in it.
Hmm.
So, it's just one of those things that it will look sick no matter what. And then having so much money coming in from Nike, you know that they're going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my answer, but to
Yeah.
sort of differentiate from you, probably John Hopkins. I'm a big fan of blue.
Okay.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite color, and they have this alternate jersey where it's like black and then with
Yes.
like the
I
blue
love it.
lettering. I think that's
Yep.
like a really sick jersey, so I'll go with
Yep.
them. Now, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
David Goggins.
That's a
And
good
I
answer.
genuinely just want to sit down and like listen to how this man talks to himself. Like I've never believed that you could like hate yourself enough into loving yourself, and he's just completely proven that wrong. So I would love to have a conversation with him.
I feel like a workout would happen like
Yeah.
right after the meal where you have
We'd
to
be
go on like
running
a
a
10.
marathon next
Yeah,
day.
exactly, exactly. I would say Tom Brady for me, just because he went through a lot
Yeah.
of adversity as a player and he didn't care what people had to say about him. And I just feel like that's something I look up to as sort of like, tr not, I guess, trying to, you're going to face a lot of trials and tribulations throughout your life, but sort of like your perspective on it and just not giving up and trying to
Yep.
prove those people wrong. So, and I'm a big Patriots fan as well. So, sort of be
Yeah.
cool to reminisce on some of those good moments. So,
Oh,
I'll
I
talk.
can't say on the Pats. I'm a Steelers girl, diehard, but
Oh, oh, so you definitely don't want to meet Tom Brady then. So,
great man, very impressive resume.
yeah. Yeah, those Steelers Patriots battles back in the day were always
Yeah,
fun to watch.
awful.
So, hey, there was a few where you guys won. So it wasn't
Yeah, that's
completely even one-sided. So,
right, right.
and now the Steelers are a playoff team and the Patriots didn't even haven't made the playoffs in the past couple of seasons. So, at least recently you get to dunk on me on that one. So, now if you could play lacrosse with someone you've never played with before in college, who would that be?
In college,
Yeah.
oh, Izzy Skane. I don't even know why. I think it was hard in the Big Ten having like competition like that, but I think I totally would do it. She's such an incredible player to watch, and she looks like a great playmaker. And I think when you have the intelligence like that, can see all parts of the field, you know that you're going to be really good. I'd love to play a game with her.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm surprised you didn't say Haley. I feel like that would be fun to have
I
this.
I've had my time with her in high school. I think I'd be good.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who I would go with. I liked Kayla Martello last year with
Yeah.
Boston College. She was a really good player, so I think that would be cool to play with her for a
Mhm.
game if I played lacrosse, but I never played lacrosse, so she would be carrying our team if that were to happen. So
Right.
now, if you could attend any sporting event in the world, which one would you pick?
You know what? I just saw this the other day. If I could attend any sporting event, it would be the Olympic surfing like sport. It's
Hmm.
in Tahiti this year because it's like part of French Polynesia, and the waves are supposed to be like 20, 30 feet. I would attend that. It's gonna be insane.
That looks awesome.
Yeah.
I would say for me, a Stanley Cup playoffs,
Oh yeah,
just
yeah,
awesome. The atmosphere, I think it's the hardest trophy to win. The
yeah.
celebration after they win the cup is, in my opinion, the coolest in all of sports. Hockey's my favorite sport as well,
Oh,
so
fun.
it would be super cool to go to one of those games and see a team win the Stanley Cup, especially
Yeah.
after watching Game 7 from this past year's finals. It's like I
Uh-huh.
got to do that at some point. I think it'll be a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
I went to one of the Penguins ones like a really long time back on I think it was like their three-peat win, and it was insane.
That's
That was
awesome.
a good
That's
year.
awesome. So especially seeing Crosby too. That
Oh
I'm
yeah.
very jealous. Like one of my favorite games of all time was there was a Crosby Ovechkin game where like both of
Oh
them scored
yeah,
like
yeah.
hat tricks and it was just like a battle between the two best players of that era and it's like you feel
It's
like you
funny.
yeah, just seeing
My
that.
dad's favorite player is Ovechkin, so and like
Oh.
we're Pittsburgh people, but he's still for whatever reason like a Capitals fan through and through. So it was a big rivalry for that,
Mhm.
but great game.
I like the commitment. I like the commitment. Now, if what is one show you can binge watch all day?
Horrible answer, but Family Guy.
That's a
I
good
don't know
answer.
why.
It's a very turn off your brain show, so
Yes, I would say it's probably one of those things that I could put on in the background and just watch. Either that or Friends, like both kind of just like background noise, and I like that. So,
yeah, I would say for me, sort of a similar answer, like Parks and Rec or Modern
yep,
Family,
yeah,
just something
it's
you can
the
turn off your
stupid
brain.
humor. Yeah,
Yeah. And there's like sometimes random stuff that I think about during the day when I'm at work, and it just
yep,
makes me like laugh. And I was like, it's because I watched an episode from like the night
yeah.
before. So
Do you
definitely one.
siblings?
I do have siblings.
Do
Yes,
they watch it too?
I'm the youngest, so I sort of
Okay,
get some of the dynamic between Modern Family,
yeah.
especially with Luke. I always find that funny.
Yeah, my brother and I are like very into Family Guy for whatever reason, and we'll always like joke about the cutaways and everything, like here
Oh,
and
the
there.
cutaways are the funniest part about the
Yep.
whole show, in
Oh
my
yeah.
opinion. Yeah, no, my favorite episode is the one where Stewie and Brian go to Paris to save
Yeah.
Megan. I don't know why that's always
Yeah.
the funniest one for me. That one makes me laugh the most. So that's probably my favorite episode.
Yes, I can't even think about. It's actually yes, I can. It's when Peter gets like the food truck. Um, it's like in one of the newer seasons, but he ends up getting so fat he like can't he can't leave it. So
Oh,
uh,
that's funny.
yeah,
Or the my favorite Peter one was like when him and Quagmire like create a band and then they go
yeah,
touring. And that was the
yeah,
songs are catchy and hilarious. Like they get stuck in your head. So that one
yeah.
was another funny one too.
There's so many good ones.
Oh yeah, it's been going on for like what, like 20 years or something like that. It feels like
Oh
it's
my
been on
gosh, yeah.
forever.
I think it's like half the time of The Simpsons. So
Yeah,
I would
that's
say,
crazy.
yeah.
Now, last down lacrosse question is what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, when people use improper grammar, but or like type different versions of there, and there incorrectly. I don't know why it's my biggest pet peeve, but it is.
I get that. I got that drilled in my head by an English teacher one time. So I
Same.
always know my there, and there. So I usually don't
Yes.
make that mistake. But if I happen to at some point, I apologize about that. If
No,
it,
you definitely have not. I
yeah.
probably would have said something.
Um, I guess for me, just traffic, kind of a basic answer.
Yeah.
But like I feel like whenever I'm in a rush and I'm running late, I always hit traffic and it always makes me
Yep.
frustrated. So that would be my biggest pet peeve.
Agreed. That's a worse one than I have chosen.
Yeah. Now, getting back to some lacrosse questions now, I guess I asked you this last time, but what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective? Is it sort of the same answer as last time, or do you have, I'm just curious if you had any other sort of perspective on that
I
question.
can't remember what I said last time, but I have been thinking about this because one of my friends actually just started her own club in Pittsburgh. And one of the biggest components of that club was getting coaches to help with the recruiting process, especially in high school. I think that that is super important. I didn't necessarily have that. And I think nowadays with different rules of how you can talk to coaches and approach, having a high school coach or a club coach on your side and helping that communication process like move smoothly would have been a huge help on my end. So I think that's one way that we can help grow the game, getting more girls involved, getting more girls into the recruitment process and wanting to play in college. And ultimately that all together will grow the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, just staggering start times in the tournament. I know they do it for the
Yeah.
men's. I feel like for the women's, they should do that as well because then people can see more
Yes.
games than just having to stick with one game or having to flip through a bunch of games at the same time. And
Well,
then
there's
put
still
it,
this thing, like, sorry to continue.
no, and then my other thing was putting the Final Four in the same location as the men's
Yes.
because I feel like last year having in North Carolina was sort of hard for people to get to, so the attendance wasn't as great. But I feel like if
Yep.
they put it in Philadelphia with the men's, I feel like it would have been larger
Yep.
attendance and it would have been easier for everyone to get to. And I know next year they're putting it all at Gillette, so hopefully that helps the
Oh,
attendance get
fun.
better.
No, that's so fun. I was just gonna say that I know this year, especially on the Big Ten network, if anything streams live on cable, like you can't access it through ESPN on like Apple TV or whatever. So that's another
Yeah.
problem. I agree. That should be changed. There's no
Yeah.
reason why you should have one or the other. And who has cable nowadays?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. The Big Ten Network, that's a decent app though. I will say it's not
Yeah.
the worst streaming service. So at least it
Yes.
like works because there's some
Yeah.
that are just brutal to find. So I'll give the Big Ten that for sure. Now, last question is I always ask this one. Any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, and friends, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Oh, I I guess the same shout outs as before to both my Rutgers girls again. I love and miss you. I'm so happy I got to see so many of you this summer. To my parents, absolutely love you guys. You've been the biggest support system, especially with being so close to Duquesne and coming to see. And to all of my Duquesne girlies, thank you so much for inviting me onto your team and welcoming me with open arms. If there's anyone that I think that you would benefit or like want to have on the podcast, Haley Reek, who played at Louisville and transferred to Duquesne, would be a very interesting conversation. She unfortunately got injured twice during season, but yet was still able to finish it out. And then another girl I met at Duquesne, Hannah Puella, and she had one of the most caused turnovers or the most caused turnovers in Duquesne history and help our team get ranked #1 in the entire NCAA for caused turnovers per game.
That's awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to reach out to those players. But Haley, I just want to say thanks again for coming back on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this conversation a lot. I think you're a great player, an even better person. You were one of my favorite players to watch, so I'm really going to miss watching you be on the field, but I know you're going to do great things in your post playing career endeavors. So I wish you all the
Yeah.
best with that. And yeah, it was a pleasure watching you play from a fan perspective. Tip of my cap, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you so much. Give all of your positive notes to my sister now.
I will. I definitely will.